Hello guys, this is Myndrr bringing you an overview of the big new Armored Core 6 PvP patch. There's a lot of stuff in here, and yes, Zimmermans did get nerfed. At the end of the video, I'll tell you what kind of builds I think will be strong in this patch, but before that, let's get into the patch notes. First off, we've got the Taiyang Shou explosive thrower, the melee weapon. This thing got a slight buff to its reload speed and its effective range. Nothing crazy though, it's still kind of a bad weapon. The Curtis received buffs to recoil and charge time, so the charge attack is pretty spammable now. The Harris got general buffs to its charge attack. It charges faster, does a little bit more damage. This weapon was already viable as an off-meta weapon, and it's even better now. I'll skip right over the minor nerf to the Haldeman, because what you guys really want to see is the Zimmerman nerf. Everything on the weapon got nerfed. Is it significant? Yeah. Are they still really good? Also yeah. All of the impact handguns like the Vientos and the Ducats got ammo buffs, so it's good for PvE, you won't run out of ammo on them, but what you really want to know about is the bazooka buff. They got their reload speed and their projectile speed buffed. I can say that the Majestics are pretty good now. The ARM grenade launchers received buffs to their reload speed, their ammo count, and their projectile speed, and they also detonate when they reach their effective range now, so they airburst like Nebulas. Speaking of which, the Nebula received general nerfs to its charge attack. This honestly feels pretty minor if you use the 150 energy specialization generator. They still feel very strong to me. I think they're still meta. Everyone's favorite pinecones, the Aperitif hand missile launchers, received serious nerfs to reload time and guidance, meaning the missile's tracking. I think the other hand missile launchers are probably better. The Earshot grenade launchers for the shoulders got their reload time buffed from 12.8 seconds to 9.3. I can tell you as someone who's used these a lot already that this is an enormous buff to what was already an S tier weapon. The Songbirds received slight nerfs to their attack power and their impact damage, and they received the grenade launcher change where the rounds will explode when reaching their effective range. The Stun Needle Launcher received a kind of odd nerf where the first attack deals normal damage like before the nerf, but then subsequent attacks deal less damage, pretty significantly less. You can replace these with energy cannons in most builds. The Laser Cannon and the Diffuse Laser Cannon received slight buffs to total rounds, meaning you can carry more ammo into a mission, helps for PvE, and the Pulse Shield Launcher got some minor buffs. The Aurora missile launcher thing got a slight buff to its energy load, and the energy firearm specialization stat now applies to it. Here it is with the generator that has 150 energy specialization. You can see that they're still not very good. These are one of the worst weapons in the game, even still. All of the dual missile launchers received pretty significant buffs to all of their stats. Even still, I think these are mainly going to be useful for chasing down enemies who are running away. The slow homing missiles received buffs to their guidance, their lock time, and their projectile speed. These still really love to fly into the ground and to miss people. The Trueno needle missile launcher received a nerf to its guidance. The projectiles don't track people as well anymore. They still seem really strong, just maybe a bit more dodgeable, especially by lightweight builds. The Coral missile received a seemingly pretty significant nerf to its damage on the charge attack. It might be worth experimenting with using the slow homing missiles instead of these now. The laser orbits received buffs to pretty much all of their stats. They're still kind of disappointing in comparison to the laser drones. I really don't see a reason to use these. The laser turrets received buffs to their projectile speed and their attack frequency. I can't say that these things are viable or anything, but they seem like a fun meme if you took them into 3v3 with a buddy or something. Onto the frame part changes, most of the heads received modest buffs to system recovery, which is a soft nerf to the stun guns and the flamethrowers. Only 2 of the cores were adjusted. The Noctrier core got a slight buff to its stability and its generator output, and the Ephemera core got general nerfs to its survivability. Onto the arm changes, the Basho arms got slight nerfs to their survivability. Most of the other arms got increases to recoil control, some of them very significant, like the Alba arms. This change will make it so that weapons suffer from less dispersion, basically, with all of the arms. Oh, and this change makes it so that the Noctrier arms are actually useful for something other than flamethrowers now, because they actually have some recoil control. Onto the legs, most of the underused biped legs got minor buffs to attitude stability, jump distance, AP, or all of the above. The tetrapod legs got their AP reduced pretty significantly, although they are still really good. And the Fortaleza legs, the wheelchair legs, got their survivability nerfed pretty badly, but they're still really good. Onto the inner part changes. Pretty much all of the boosters, except for the Gridwalker, got their upward thrust increased dramatically. It's actually a pretty insane change. The game is going to be much more aerial in nature now. I'm not sure how it's going to work out in PvP. We'll see. I think this is kind of like their soft nerf towards floaty missile builds. They want to make it so that other people can reach them. Onto the FCS changes. Some of the generalist FCSs received slight nerfs to close range assists, which is within 130 meters. They really want to make you commit to Ocellus if you want a close range FCS. Onto the generators, they've given modest buffs to the first 3 generators you receive. Honestly, I still don't really see a reason to use these. I think you need Santai or a Coral generator for most builds. Either that or the 150 energy specialization generator. Onto the expansion slot. Pulse Protection and Terminal Armor have both been buffed. Pulse Protection gets a slight HP increase, and Terminal Armor gets 2 extra seconds of protection. I think it might be okay in 3v3, but it's still bad for 1v1s. Now for some of the most interesting changes, and potentially the most impactful in the entire patch. They have changed the attitude recovery rate so that it's variable depending on your weight. So lighter ACs will reduce their stagger bar faster than heavy ones. It doesn't seem to be a hugely dramatic effect, but you can tell it's there. They've also adjusted the boost rate curves according to weight, and this seems to be in the direction of lighter ACs being faster and heavier ACs being slower. For example, one of my super lightweight ACs went from about 350 boost speed to about 370. Weight now has a much more dramatic effect on assault boost top speed, so even on the hover tank you have to choose between having heavy weapons and having fast assault boost speed. They've also nerfed the range of kicks for tetrapods. It seems to be a fairly minor nerf. I'm not sure about this one. I think these need to be nerfed even harder actually to make them go away for good. There are general nerfs to assault boost, including the reduction of impact damage that you take while assault boosting. That got nerfed. Kicks got nerfed for all leg types except for reverse joints, but it's a pretty minor nerf. They still deal a lot of damage and the hit stun is still 100% the same as it was, so not really a big nerf in the end. What they really should have nerfed is the tracking of kicks during hard block. That would have had a dramatic effect. And there's some extremely minor change to damage types against the pulse shield launcher. Onto the bug fixes. They fixed the bug with Coral Oscillator having insane tracking on Tetra legs. I have a video about this if you want to know what it was, but it's gone now, so you don't have to worry about it. Other than that, there's just some very minor bug fixes regarding attack tones playing when they're supposed to, the Moonlight not clipping through the map with any of its attacks, and reloading a full weapon will no longer cause it to fire. So now that we're at the end of the patch notes, let me quickly talk about what I'm surprised wasn't in there. Number one, I don't get why they didn't nerf Coral Shield. Probably the best PvP item in the game overall. It's gonna dominate this patch, for sure, in all of the really meta builds. I must say that I like their changes overall, though. I think the only one that's really questionable is the upward thrust change to the boosters. That one is gonna make PvP feel pretty wonky this patch, I feel like, but I get where they're coming from with it. Generally, I like the buffs to the lightweight sort of builds, and the nerfs to the heavyweight builds. That's a direction they do need to go in with the game. I'm really surprised that they didn't nerf kicking more. I think they should have nerfed the tracking of hardlock kicks. I already said that, so I'm not going to harp on about it, but kick builds are going to continue to be alive and well for this patch, which I'm not really happy about. It's kind of one of the lowest skill builds. I think they also needed to nerf assault boost when you're not locked onto an enemy. You know, basically prevent people from running away around the map with assault boost. Make it like 25% slower or whatever. It's a pretty simple fix, makes passive playstyles much worse than they currently are. Now, moving on to what builds I think are going to be meta this patch. Laser tanks are going to continue to be very strong, especially with Coral Shield. It's just way hard to dodge attacks on ping in this game. The netcode is really, really bad. It's infamously bad FromSoft netcode, so once the ping gets above like 100, you're just not going to dodge these. They're just going to hit you every time they shoot. I think the Earshot back grenade launchers got off like a bandit this patch. They got a buff for some reason when they were already S tier in my opinion. If you want a cool build that uses these, check out my Bombardier Beetle video. I think that lightweight assault boost runaway type builds that use missiles are going to be very popular and very, very strong. It's very easy to play and not a lot of things beat it, especially now that heavies don't have good assault boost speed anymore. Anyway guys, thanks for tuning into the video. If you'd like to see more Armored Core 6 related content, feel free to drop a follow here or on my Twitch, it's in the description. I'm actually looking forward to playing Armored Core 6 PvP again on this patch. It looks a lot faster, looks like there's a lot less tanky builds out there. I just hope it doesn't get too aerial and too lame. Anyway, till next time, bye bye.